Welcome to the Commissioner's Report. I'm Miles Vance. In this role, I get to speak to all of our county commissioners, and it's clear that every one of them shares a common drive for the economic development and growth in this county. Now, on our last episode, we heard from Commissioner Santiago about the impact of large businesses such as Avelo Airlines. And today, we're going to take a look at the other end of the spectrum with small business and mixed economies in Polk County. I'm joined today by District 1 Commissioner Becky Troutman, whose home city of Lakeland is making impressive strides to support small businesses. Commissioner Troutman, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm also joined by Steve Scruggs, President of the Lakeland Economic Development Council, and Christian Strawbridge, who is the President of Catapult. Welcome.
Thanks, Miles.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all for joining me here today, and I'm really excited about this episode because we get to talk about small business and a mixed economy. You know, we often focus on those big headline acquisitions like Amazon and Avelo Airlines, coming to the area and setting down their footprint and working in the economy. But, small business is the core of the American dream. So talk to me a little bit about what the BOCC does to support a mixed economy and small businesses.
The Board of County Commissioners works to bring companies to our area that are going to bring that ideal job where we have high-skill, high-wage jobs. Sometimes that is, again, that's the big businesses coming here. Just as important, we have those people that it is their American dream to start their business. And we have the wonderful organization of Catapult that's very unique in how it serves those minds coming up with their new businesses. And so we work to support her organization so that we can grow those small businesses organically in Polk County and hopefully one day help them scale, that they become the big businesses that other people may try to recruit them out of Polk County.
Absolutely. And so Catapult, Kristen, let's talk about it. What is Catapult? For our residents who might not know what it is, or who've maybe driven by and seen that really cool, impressive building but aren't quite sure what goes on inside, could you give us an idea of what Catapult is, what it does?
Yes, I would love to tell you, because every time I tell somebody, hey, I'm Kristen, I work at Catapult, I immediately follow that up with, do you know what that is? And a lot of times people don't know. So I'm grateful to get to talk about it today. So basically at Catapult, what we are is we are a nonprofit business incubator. And our goal is to foster an environment for founders to build scalable businesses. Because ultimately we believe if we can help people build more businesses, that's going to add to our life in our community, both socially and by providing economic impact. So we do that through our building, which you referenced, which from the outside can look intimidating, but on the inside is vibrant, and there's lots of people that are building businesses. So we have a co-working space upstairs, so people working on office businesses, technology, marketing, those different types of things, they work up there. Downstairs, we have a full commercial kitchen, so we typically have about 40 food-based businesses that are working out of the facility, and typically what they do is they'll prep their food and then sell it other places like farmers markets, or we have somebody who has baked goods that are getting into a number of 7-Elevens in the area, those types of things. And then we also have a full maker space. So that maker space has 3D printers, metal shop, wood shop, textiles, anything you need to kind of prototype a new product or do some small batch manufacturing. So we like to think if you want to build something real, whether that's a business or a product, and you want to take that to market, at Catapult, not only do we have the facility, but we have mentors, programs in order to help, and all of it's done at a very subsidized rate. So it costs an entrepreneur 50% of what it costs us to have them there to participate in what we're doing at Catapult. And that's why we're a nonprofit, because we believe in providing access for people to bring these ideas to life.
Well, that's really incredible. And talk about some of the success stories from Catapult, because I know there's more than 45 successful businesses that have launched from Catapult and since gone on to build up, become bigger. There's even a soccer team that started in Catapult. Talk about that. Talk about the types of businesses and the success stories.
Right. I didn't know about the soccer team.
Right. So there is Lakeland United Football Club. They basically, what they do is they bring people from other countries, train them here, and then help those kids get scholarships. So it's kind of, I don't know what that training program's called, but it is, people don't normally think, oh, you know what's probably at Catapult? Soccer. But we do have that. And so that's what's fun, is we have such a wide variety of industries and businesses. One that we often point to that's a success that has added a lot to our local community vibe is Born and Bred Bakehouse. They started in the Catapult kitchen, then they were selling at the farmers market, and then they ended up in their own location, and she now has more than 40 people working with her to kind of just provide incredible baked goods in an environment where we can go and meet with people. So everything from soccer teams to tech companies to bakeries, those are the businesses that we serve.
It's really wonderful. Now, Mr. Scruggs, so could you sort of describe how Catapult fits into both the short-term and long-term vision of the Lakeland Economic Development Council, how they are part of your overall goals?
Happy to do that, Miles. So we go on city visits. We take about 15 or 20 community leaders to go on city visits to other cities that might be doing things that we're not doing in Lakeland area. And so we've been to San Francisco, we've been to San Diego, we've been to Austin, Texas, the Research Triangle Park, Nashville, Greenville, Boise, Idaho, every other year or so. And so we spend 4 or 5 days in those cities. And one of the things that we saw in California was these co-working maker spaces, commercial kitchens, not together but separately, and we're like, that would be pretty cool if we could do something like that in Lakeland. And our first thought was a maker space, because we have a lot of manufacturing here and we thought there might be an infrastructure for that. But what we found when we met with the groups that were doing it out there is very expensive to build a maker space because of all the equipment that goes in it. So we decided to kind of back off and say, hey, we're not quite ready for this. We went to a city visit in 2013 to Chattanooga, and they had 2 co-working spaces, and we said, okay, if they can do it in Chattanooga, we can do it in Lakeland. And so one of our investors gave us a space for free in the basement of the Bank of America building in downtown Lakeland. And then we raised a little bit of money from some local people to build out the kitchen that was in this basement. And we also hired some local entrepreneurs to build out the space. We kind of said put lipstick on a pig because it wasn't really pretty. But we took the ceilings out and built an entrance into it and put a living wall in it and built a lot of what we thought were cool little offices in there made out of pallet wood. Back then that was the cool thing to do.
It was
10
very
years
2013.
ago.
Very cool. Yeah.
It was great though, in 2013.
Yeah, it was unique.
And so Born and Bred was one of our first tenants, and it's really important to get a successful launch right off the bat that gives you credibility. And of course Jen Smur has given us a lot of credibility. People come here from all over the world to go to her bakery.
Wow.
But anyway, that's kind of how it got started in the basement of the bank building, and it was given to us for nothing for 3 years. And but we wound up staying there 5 or 6 years. And Wesley Beck, who was the one that donated it to us, and he let us stay a little bit longer while we looked for a new space. Because once we got in there, we thought we'd get 20 or 30 people out of coffee shops. And what wound up happening is we got 100 people within 6 months, and we're like, uh-oh, what are we going to do? And so we started looking for buildings in Lakeland a couple years later, and we wound up finding a site right on Lake Mirror where the building is now. We bought this old building there, and we started working on it, and then Hurricane Irma came. Irma came in 2017, and 3 days later the city condemned the building. So we had to start all over again, but we basically designed the same footprint, same building we were going to build, except it's new. And so that's kind of how we got started. Long story short, maybe that wasn't too short, but the reason we did it is because we saw it in other cities, and they were successfully launching entrepreneurs out of those.
Yeah.
And so yes, we do work with very large Amazon, Avello, Publix, supermarkets, companies, and that's our bread and butter and what we do. But we wanted to create a place for entrepreneurs in Lakeland to be able to start something without mortgaging their house, and test their concepts out and not have to move to another city. And so we wanted to keep them here in Lakeland, and so that's why we started Catapult. And quite frankly, the cool thing about it is it's all privately funded. It's all been donations by local people that have wanted to see them get started. And so the city and the county are members just like anyone else, but it's not funded out of the government. It's funded from private sector.
Well, it's a great example of the public sector and the private sector having a common interest and wanting to keep brilliant business people in this area.
Absolutely.
And to build that out from here.
Absolutely.
And not try to bring it
Totally.
in or export it out.
Correct.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about economic development, Commissioner Troutman. We talk about that a lot. It's almost a buzzword, you could say.
It's all about jobs.
Absolutely. So talk about how people benefit. We've heard about how small businesses benefit, but how does the normal everyday resident benefit from increased economic development, from the participation that we get from both Catapult and from the LEDC, the Winter Haven EDC, all these organizations. How does the average Polk County resident benefit from this?
The average Polk County resident benefits from that paycheck. And whether it's Amazon that's coming in, Avello, several companies that Steve has spoken about in the past, from Pepperidge Farm expanding a line, those translate into real paychecks. And when they are making a good living, they're able to go out, they're able to enjoy our restaurants, they're able to invest more money in their homes, and it makes a better community. It truly is about jobs at the end of the day. That is what economic development does. What I think is kind of the blend of the expertise that has come from some of those large businesses and how they're giving back into Catapult, and the expert on staff. Would either one of you like to talk about how you've implemented that for the benefit of the Catapult members?
Absolutely.
Experts.
Yeah. So we have a program that we run that's called the Expert in Residence program. And really, the reason we do that is because we started seeing, okay, we have all these entrepreneurs, they're in a wide variety of industries, but they do need basic business help, and that applies to all of them. And so Tim Cox was the creative services director at Publix, and a few years ago, maybe 2020, 2021, he came to us and was like, I'm ready to retire, but I have so much knowledge to share and so much to give. Is there any space for me at Catapult where I could mentor founders? And so now we have somebody who is at Catapult 3 days a week, willing to meet with anybody to talk about brand strategy, everything from logos to how are you talking about yourself, what does that brand look like? And he's somebody who did that for the Publix brand for almost 40 years. And so really what's been special to see is how we can take people who have, maybe they started their own business, maybe they have a special industry expertise like HR or accounting, but there's so many people in our community that have great knowledge to share and such an incredible willingness to give back. And we see that philanthropically, but we also see that through time and volunteer hours. And so trying to figure out how do we plug those people in so that they can build a legacy and an impact where they are helping these business founders grow something, again, that's going to continue to impact our community for years beyond when I'm here, when any of us are here at Catapult. So I think it's a really special way to encourage founders, but also for people to give back. So thanks for asking about that.
It's really wonderful. Well, we were running low on time here, so I just want to ask each of you, what are your short and long-term goals for this whole picture of Catapult, of the LEDC, of the commission, working with economic development, working with small businesses, big businesses? What are your plans, coming up? What are your plans looking far beyond the next few years?
My plan is, as I've said during my campaign, I want my daughter to come back to live in Polk County and to be able to get a job in any industry that she desires. And that is through economic development. And that's through the work of Steve Scruggs that goes out, they find these businesses and they sell them on why Polk County would be a good fit. And when that is happening, my daughter's going to want to come back. And that's what it's about, big picture for me. So what do I see? I see my daughter coming back to Polk County, getting a job in any industry where she can get a paycheck, have a career that provides the lifestyle that she considers to be good.
Absolutely. Kristen, what about you? What about Catapult's short and long-term plans?
Yeah, so Catapult just celebrated 10 years, and we took that time to really do some research on what's working and what's not. And we are finding that we have the most momentum in manufacturing, people who are building physical products with their hands, whether that's high tech or low tech, and then also culinary. So those are the industries we're going to be focusing on in the immediate future, and I love the way that plays into the greater landscape in our community. So I think it's going to be a great ecosystem.
Such a valuable thing to have. And finally, Steve, what are your short and long-term goals?
So Becky took mine, but that's been my
no
speech.
problem.
That's been my speech for a long time, but I think I would build off of what you said. And so, yes, our goal is to have a community where all of our children could come back and find a position and do anything that they want to do, no matter what they get a degree in or whatever. But I think there's also another piece of that, and that's building a community that they want to come back to that's in addition to the job. So that's third spaces that are coming out of Catapult, like a Born and Bred. You know, we want to create these spaces in between work and home that people want to hang out at and be at. So that's one thing. I think public education's another one. We created Lakeland Leads, which is now called Connect Ed. And so we want to have the best school system in the state of Florida so that when people are looking at moving here for a high-skilled, high-wage job, they'll be attracted to our area because we have great public schools. So those types of infrastructure, I could name 10 more, but we don't have time today. But those are the types of things that the LEDC is also working on, not just jobs, but trying to create a community that everybody wants to live in and thrive in. So yeah, that would be my answer.
Okay, well, thank you all so much for coming. I really enjoyed our conversation today.
Glad to be here.
Thanks,
For having
Miles.
us.
Thank you, Miles.
And thank you for joining us on this episode of the Commissioner's Report. We'll see you next time.